And we're back.
Welcome to No Direction Beyond, your source for Starfinder's news and interviews. My name is Alexander Agunis. I'm No Direction's everyman gamer, and I'm joined, as always, by James, the most intrepid Starfinder this side of the galaxy.
I'm James. He said my name, which is weird in the intro. That's mine.
I stole it, sorry. Speaking of conspiracies and thefts and whatnot, we have the ultimate conspiracy, the Kimmel Conspiracy tonight. Not
Hello.
totally. It's like Kimmel. Yeah, totally didn't call it the Kimmel Conspiracy just because I wanted to make a Pepe Sylvia meme. No, not at all. Well, welcome to the show, Mike. I know this is not your first time with No Direction ever, but this is your first time here with us, so we're happy to have you.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So, Mike, just for the audience, everybody listening, if people, don't open their rule books and like stare at the author names, can you tell us a bit about why we might have invited you here on the show tonight?
Well, I'm one of the only people in the world who can wear this Starfinder staff sweatshirt.
Oh,
That's the stag.
I guess that might be why you asked me to come here, because I'm a senior developer on the Starfinder team over at Paizo.
Yes, we're actually here to interview Mike's hoodie. Hello, hoodie. How are you?
Hello.
So, how many of you guys are on the team now?
Okay, so there's 5 of us. Is that right? So Jenny Jarzewski, the creative manager, is my boss, and then there's myself, senior developer, and we have 2 designers on the team. That's Dustin Knight and Horacio Gunn, and we have one more senior developer, Jessica Catalan, who is doing the org play side of all things Starfinder.
So wait. There's only 5 of you, and you guys put out 4 rule books in like 2 months.
Yeah. Did that happen? Was that just a dream, or did that really happen? Can you confirm?
Man, I can confirm. I've got all of those books. Plus, I've got the Murder at Metal City and Guilt of the Grave World.
Yeah,
So like that's wow. Like
Yeah.
that. I mean, I feel like now granted, I'm not somebody who participates in a lot of the Reddit stuff, but like there's a lot of Reddit people going like, why is this book not out sooner or whatever? And like are you I'm just like looking at the numbers. Are you like half the size of the Pathfinder team? You guys are incredible if that's the case. You all deserve raises.
Pathfinder is structured a bit differently. They've got a few teams. They've got the rules and lore team, and they've got the narrative team, and they have, of course, worked together on all kinds of things, but they've got a couple managers and different layers of devs and designers doing their own thing over in Galarian land. So yeah,
Galarian land,
different size, different sort of different way of doing things, but
I like
part of the same Paizo picture.
I like the implication that everybody else on the Pathfinder team is actually just writing for one small theme park variant of your setting.
This little theme park over in the corner of Starfinder. That's all. No.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but like compared to many people on the team, you're like actually in a really interesting position to really talk about both aspects of the team, right? Why don't you tell us a bit about your journey as get to the point of becoming the developer of the lead developer, senior developer.
Yeah. Lead developer is a different title. For, other. One day I can aspire, I suppose. No, so they didn't just plunk me right down into the Starfinder space as a senior developer out of nowhere, I guess. So yes, my journey began so many years ago. Where do I start? I could start with the first time I was ever on No Direction. Was in 2014. When
ancient.
I believe it was Jefferson Thacker. Who interviewed me, and I think Ryan was there as well. I don't recall specifically, but I believe you can still find this on YouTube somewhere. Anyway, this was back when Paizo did its RPG Superstar contest in-house, and I had been trying to win RPG Superstar for like 5 years at this point. I had entered like 5 times and didn't have much success, and then had a little bit of success and like kind of got in. For people listening who don't know much about it, it's a contest where you like submit a design of a magic item, or they would change around parameters each year, but you would submit a design. There would be public voting rounds. There'd be staff who would judge the entries, and if you won the contest, or as I did, eventually get in the top 4, you would get a freelance writing assignment from Paizo. So you'd get to try your hand at writing, in my case, a Pathfinder Society scenario, a short adventure for their Pathfinder line. And I had been doing a little bit of writing of like class feats and stuff for Pathfinder First Edition for third-party publishers for a few years at that point, and just slowly getting better. Playing a lot of Pathfinder, running a lot of Pathfinder APs, just kind of learn their in-house like styles and what kinds of things they put in their adventures and books. Eventually did well enough to start writing. John Compton, who is a lead developer over on the narrative team now, was my first adventure developer, the first person to develop the adventure that I wrote. And that was, like I said, back in 2014. And that was kind of the start of my writing journey for Paizo. At the time, I was a teacher. I had just started my high school teaching career, which lasted until that teaching career and my writing for Paizo kind of went until COVID, which shut down the work I was doing in education at the time. I was an instructional coach, training other teachers for the district by that time. And a lot of chaos ensued. And I ended up applying for a job over at Paizo on the organized play team, having written a bunch for the organized play team at that point. I was like, hey, maybe I should go try my hand at doing this full time. Ended up getting that job, and that was kind of my entry into Paizo as a staff member.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean,
and now, go ahead, you go.
Oh, and like some of the Paizo work was like Gallows of Madness, Kavakori, Haljan Cataclysm, that multi-table.
Yes,
a lot of stuff that we ended up playing a lot of.
Definitely. You know, I was looking at that timetable, and I think that because actually one of your coworkers, Dustin Knight, is in chat, and Dustin linked the episode that you were in our live stream on Twitch, because James and I do this live. Yeah. I don't have the exact date that it went. February 20th. All right. So that means if that was February 20th, I joined No Direction in August of 2014. So that means that like that actually predates me being on this team by 6 months, just for a record. just in case anybody wanted to come on to watch the show live and see James and I just start to crumble to ash. But yeah, it's been a while. It's been quite a long, extravagant adventure. James and I are a big fan of a bunch of your Pathfinder stuff. We were talking before the show that James and a couple of friends and I did this one crazy run at a con where we all took turns running one of Mike's adventures, because it gave you like a full level of experience, where one GM would run it and everyone would make a character, then everyone would make a new character, pass the GM mantle to the next player, and everyone went around. And by the time like 2 or 3 hours were over, everybody had a bunch of characters, because that's just the kind of insane gamers we were almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, actually, it's almost 12 years to the month. If that's when that went up, of when you were on the show last.
That's pretty cool.
Ancient,
man.
All right, but ultimately, like, you made the jump. You went from Pathfinder to Starfinder. Did you do any work on second edition Pathfinder when you were with Paizo?
I did adventures for second edition Pathfinder, and I wrote for, I think I have things in a couple of the Lost Omens books.
Nice.
That I wrote as well. But yeah, that was the system I was working on when I was on the org play team. Was it was like around season 2, 3, 4 of second edition organized play Pathfinder Society. Yeah, it was all 2E when I was staff. Highlight Squad Alpha, that's right. Dustin is mentioning the first scenario I wrote for second edition.
Yeah,
in chat there.
That's awesome. I love that name. So I guess, like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong and check my understanding, but when you're a society dev, you are able to contribute to the lore of the Pathfinder or Starfinder setting, but like kind of in like smaller ways, whereas when you're a developer, you are much more like broad strokes and like the direction of the whole narrative that each year takes. Is that correct?
Um, a lot of the organized play scenarios are more standalone, but a lot of the sort of season length plot lines are like world shaking
Yeah.
events. And that's true on both Pathfinder and the Starfinder side. And speaking at least for Starfinder, all of that is in the hands of Jessica Catalan right now.
Mhm.
And we work closely together. And so Jessica's the one with the ideas, and I wish I could say more about them, but of course, Jessica will have her time to announce her cool plots and things that are coming up for Starfinder Society. But
Yeah.
we come together, and this is true of like if I'm outlining an adventure for like a hardcover or something like that. Jessica's one of the first people who I'll run it by and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. How does this mesh with any org play plans you have? For Starfinder, the organized play campaign is like we consider that to be like the A plot, the main things that are going on in the land of Starfinder right now is like over in organized play adventures.
Mhm.
And so I think there are a lot that are like you might say less important to the setting overall, kind of the standalone adventures, but there's
Mhm.
plenty of huge stuff that happens, and that's true on Pathfinder's side as well. And they try and do tie-ins as well to like, oh, there's this adventure path going on in Taldor. Let's do a scenario that leads up to it, that kind of thing.
So jumping from Pathfinder side of things to Starfinder side of things, what's like something in the Starfinder setting that you really, really love, especially something you couldn't do in Pathfinder?
Something I couldn't do in Pathfinder. Um, Goodness gracious.
I know. Listen, we're here with the hard hitting questions here at No Direction.
That is a question. Well, on the Starfinder side of things, we try not to do this too much, but it is possible on the Starfinder side of things. I'll speak to when I was like a freelancer, for example. One of the most fun things before I was a staff, when I was freelancing for Starfinder, was getting a scenario. The first thing I
Mhm.
ever wrote for Starfinder was an organized play scenario assigned to me by Thurston Hillman,
Ooh.
who would later be running the Starfinder team and then moving on to even greater things now. Anyway,
Yeah, I hear I
um,
hear he's a notable
yeah,
person.
associate publisher Thurston Hillman. So the scenario he assigned to me was set on a planet that hadn't existed before, right? Like it's this completely new part of the setting that's just like, hey, here's this planet, here's these people, this is what their society is like, but you get to make them up and give us some details and sort of pitch this ancestry that'll be included in the back of the book and make up more details about their government and their society. And then here's the plot of this adventure, and you need to
Mm.
write this. That ended up being the Copaxes and their planet Tabrid Minor. They're made of coral. You can see one of them on the cover of the Alien Archive 4, I think they ended up in first edition. And
Wait. You're the
so
Copaxi daddy?
Oh, what a phrase.
that's not a phrase I think I have ever heard or said. But um but I wrote that scenario. So yeah. That kind of thing. And obviously in Pathfinder, they explore new areas and they create new ancestries, and those things do happen. But in Starfinder, I feel like it happens more, and there is more freedom to do that. We try not to. We're trying, especially in second edition, to avoid like inventing a whole ton of new proper nouns all the time. Like, oh, and then this planet, and this planet, and this planet, and all these places you never heard of. We're trying to stick to the galaxy guide as like, hey, this is the setting that we intend to explore further. So we're still inventing new things, but we're trying to limit the amount that we're just like constantly throwing new planets at people. But that is one of the exciting things about Starfinder, is the ability to just say, we kind of need a planet with this history and this sort of theme, a horror theme. And if we don't have something that fits, we can just kind of make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it feel writing a playtest scenario versus like a standard scenario? Like when I started running 2E for
Oh,
my group, we start with Shards of the Glass Planet.
yeah.
That was fun. They enjoyed it a lot. But how are those different from making like a standard narrative scenario?
Yeah. I'm glad you had fun with that one. That one was very different. Shards of the Glass Planet, in part because it was my sort of first foray into writing something much, much shorter
Mhm.
than the typical scenario length is. And we did that intentionally, right?
Mhm.
Starfinder scenarios in general right now are going to a shorter model that fits better into convention slots and um, your friendly local game store evenings and everything. But that playtest scenario, when we were writing those, we're looking to check something very specific, usually, like,
Mhm.
does this work? Um, does this kind of adventure work in this length? The Shards of the Glass Planet being kind of a very tight first contact scenario with it's got like 2 encounters, right? And you
Mhm.
said that you've played it and enjoyed it. So there's not very much there. And so we're checking, hey, does this, very short scenario work for a first contact with a planet and an alien species we've never seen before? Uh, for Starfinder second edition, and this was true of like I developed a Cosmic Birthday, which was one of the longer modules written by Jenny
We just
Jarzabski.
got done that one.
Nice. I hope you enjoyed it.
Mhm. Mhm.
I hope there were no TBKs, or if there were TBKs, I hope they were informative because we were
No.
essentially, we weren't playtesting the math of the system because we knew the math of the system. It was the Pathfinder second edition math. We weren't going to change the way your characters leveled up or the way your bonuses worked or the way the creature math worked. All of that was already playtested and existed in the form that it did. And so we were playtesting more our specific creatures and ranged combat, and a lot of those encounters in the Cosmic Birthday are in kind of tight corridors. So how
Mhm.
does that make sense with the ranged combat that we're trying to emphasize with everyone having laser rifles and things like that? So writing playtest content, we think a lot more about like what information and feedback do we want to get out of this
Mhm.
versus just uh, the story we want to tell. We do still want to tell a cool story. You can still go play Cosmic Birthday, even though the playtest is over. You can just grab that and play a really very important event in the Starfinder universe. It doesn't matter that the playtest is over. So we do want to tell a cool story, but we had very specific things we were checking, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting that it's like like it's not necessarily the math, but the concept and the encounter design.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
from what I got from Cosmic Birthday is by players, if not led through a place, will skip any place they're scared of, and they won't investigate clues. They miss significant parts of the book, and that's fine.
Oh no.
I had to loop them around and tell them a lot about psychic stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, that stuff was there. You went, yep, that's a thing, and you skipped ahead.
Yeah.
That is the most Nate course of action I've ever heard.
It wasn't even Nate. It wasn't even. It was the new group of players because I decided to run this for people that hadn't played Starfinder at all. Like that was
Yeah.
the baseline here. So a lot of these people were either new to role playing games or only had like limited experience. So it's them getting comfortable with saying I want to explore stuff and potentially being wrong. Like we had somebody new because of a scheduling issue, and they had they were getting the terms with TTRPGs not being Baldur's Gate, where you can just find the option that
Mm,
wins a fight. It's like,
right.
yeah, the option that wins the fight is being persistent. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Persistent,
Yeah.
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 They got diced a little bit in the final encounter, but it's like you were doing everything right. You just rolled bad.
Yeah.
Nice. Is there anything you really miss when it comes to working on the organized play side of things?
Um, sure. I mean, one of the advantages of working on the organized play side is that there's always something new. Because they're shorter, they have a shorter development lifespan than something like a 150-page book that takes months and months on end, right? The turnaround for scenarios is quite rapid, and so you're always doing something new and doing something quickly. And you can also get, even over the course of a single season of organized play, you start to get feedback on the scenarios and people doing the reporting conditions and things like that. And you can react to those by changing the events later in the season based on what players are doing and the choices they're making and the things they're saying. And with our hardcover lines, it's obviously much harder to do that because
Definitely.
of the length to which you need to plan things in advance. And um, so sometimes I do miss kind of that direct interaction with the player choices that is afforded by the organized play campaign. I just have to live vicariously through Jessica and talk to her in our meetings and see what she's up to.
Well, you know, just so that you can live vicariously a little bit, what's your favorite part about the Starfinder setting?
Oh gosh, that's impossible. That's an impossible question to answer. I can't possibly tell you my single favorite part of the Starfinder setting.
Well, if you want to tell us multiple,
Oh,
you can. That's
there's
fine.
parts that I am extremely fond of. See, but the problem is there's an adventure path that I've been working on that isn't announced and that I cannot announce today that takes place in one of my favorite regions of the setting, and I can't give that away. So I'm like
Uh,
prevented
s-
from talking about it.
so
There's regions of, I mean, I like the vast as a concept as a whole,
Mhm.
but there's particular regions of near space with certain very interesting conflicts going on that I have uh, uh, keen interest in seeing how they play out and maybe deciding some certain things about how they play out. Of course, the players and GMs in certain campaigns will get to decide how things play out. But as the person setting the stage, so to speak,
Mhm.
with some of these regions and adventures, um, let's just say there's some near space conflicts that are intriguing to me.
I see. I see. So, two things. Number one, I sounds like we're gonna want to have you back on in X amount of time, you know, in the future. Also,
Yeah, soon.
um,
Not 12 years.
soon. Yeah, definitely not 12 years. And, and number two, a lot of our listeners listen as a podcast, so they don't get to see like the video. But if you've never
Ah.
watched a YouTube video, because James puts all this on YouTube later, and or watch it live on Twitch, you just missed Mike make the most amazing steeple fingers that I've ever seen. And like, yeah, that I think that told us all that you really need to know that one gesture. So you should, you're definitely missing the visual cues.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't spell all of them out for you, but it's good stuff. So I guess like taking that and springboarding into a different direction. I imagine that like with a team as tight knit as yours, everybody ends up developing like kind of like a groove or a thing that they're known for. Like Dustin Knight came on the show and said when we asked him, he stared at us in the camera, eyes hollow, and said, "I'm known for math and numbers and Excel." And what would you say your wheelhouse is? What are the things that you are known for?
Oh, it's hard to say because I work on so many different things, but I am definitely known for being the guy who's like, we need a spreadsheet. This needs a spreadsheet. And it's like, Mike, this project already has 7 spreadsheets. And I'm like, yeah, and it's due tomorrow, right? And I'm like, no, 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 trust me. Another spreadsheet will solve our problems. I'll show you how. And they're like, we don't have time to make it. And I'm like, it's okay. I already did. It's here. Here you go. And I share it with the team. So I'm definitely known for sort of meticulously keeping track of a lot of things. That helped me a lot with. I was the dev lead on Alien Core. I have one right here,
Mm,
kind of our Monster Core equivalent. I'm trying to get the screen to show it properly
Mhm.
if you're watching. But
yeah,
our Alien Core book, our book of creatures, right?
yeah.
Um, which had so many spreadsheets just for tracking you know, the creatures themselves and the levels they needed to be and the traits they needed to have and the themes they needed to um, fit into, right? We have galaxy guides showing like, oh, horror adventures, high-tech adventures, dystopian adventures. We need to check Alien Core to make sure that it had a good spread for all the different kinds of stories. Use a spreadsheet for that, right? Use a spreadsheet to make sure that we've got all the art organized. Use a spreadsheet to make sure all the levels are correct. Use a spreadsheet to keep track of all the freelancer emails I have to send because it's like a lot of freelancers wrote for this book. It's a lot. And keeping track of all of that takes meticulous tracking and spreadsheets. So that might not be a fun answer to just say spreadsheets. But I like to like really stay on top of the details and keep track and remember things. As far as like the creative side of things, um, as a senior dev, I kind of have a hand in whatever Jenny asks me to work on. Basically, my sort of intended wheelhouse is adventures. So stuff like developing a Cosmic Birthday, Murder in Metal City, um, occasionally a scenario. Like I developed one of the first like Gen Con release scenarios. I might go back and help now and then with more. The unannounced adventure I'm working on, another unannounced adventure I'm working on, the one after that that we're outlining. So adventures is kind of the thing that I spend most of my time on. But with the release of the game, when I was first hired onto the Starfinder team, the very first job I had was to like do a pass on the Solarian class design and like make a Solarian character for a playtest game, and then write more Solarian content, and then do a pass on Witch Warper and work on Envoy and develop gear, right? And so I don't just do adventures. I have to help with anything that needs any work, any fires put out, or any content written, and helping onboard new people. And so it's hard to say the one thing, but my sort of tongue-in-cheek answer is spreadsheets.
That's pretty amazing that you said one of your earliest jobs on the team was, here, Mike, we need you to go use these rules and build a character to play a game with. Here's a pile of money.
Yes. Yes, it's fun. It sounds like fun in games, but think about it. At the time, there was no player core, right? This book, player core, did not exist. So it was not Mike, open player core and make a Solarian. It was Mike, here's a spreadsheet with all the math for our current gear. And here is a work in progress draft of like some ideas for what Solarian might be able to do. Nothing written out in like actual, like, this is how it works, but just like, yeah, this is like how the class progression probably is going to work. And these are some ideas for abilities. And here's the math for the gear. And we haven't done the augmentations right yet. You'll need to write those later, but if you want to make some up, just do that. So yes, my job was to sit down and make a character and play a game, but it felt a lot like work.
So it was like building a Lego set. Like I got this for Christmas. I'm gonna pull it down. I got this gorgeous Fox Lego. So it's like building a Fox Lego set, but you don't get the instruction manual.
Yes.
Yeah. Horrifying. I think this is a really good conversation to have, because I've met a lot of inspiring writers who are like, oh, I love tabletop role-playing games. I'm good at playing them. I should be a writer. And I'm like, wow, you don't know that actually those two skill sets aren't necessarily the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you might actually be better off keeping it as a hobby, potentially.
Yeah. You might be better off not submitting, like
I mean, follow your dreams, don't let anybody stop you, but there's many ways to impact the community, right?
Yeah, don't let anyone else but you stop you, but give it an honest look. Should you stop you, you're the only one with that power. Now, I think it's really interesting that the guy who was going to get tasked with making so many of the adventures was also given the monster manual, because that feels like you were asked to, I called it the monster manual, but I mean Alien Core.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like they were telling you like, hey, guess what, Mike, you get to develop the book that's going to have all your paintbrushes and all of your canvases in it, right? These are your tools. Make the tools you want.
Yeah.
Do you ever look at a monster that you were developing and going like, oh, I like, this ability isn't good enough. This isn't enough chaos for me. Let's up the ante.
Oh yeah. Oh, we always have room to say, you know what? I'm going to make a variant Akashic Dragon. I'm not going to use the one that's on the cover of Player Core and set it up in Alien Core. I want it to be extra spicy. We always have some leeway to do that. Of course, some of the folks who are most responsible for doing that kind of thing are the adventure authors who I hire. I do end up writing a lot of the content myself, or giving the ideas like, hey, this needs to have this type of creature that's a variant in this way. But a lot of those ideas come from other people who are tremendously creative and will write the adventures that I end up developing. So
Can you tell us one monster in Alien Core that, like, when you got the turnover, you were just like, Kimmel Spice? Like, you spiced up with Kimmel Spice. Can you think of
oh,
like a
that I
basic?
spiced up. Oh
Yeah,
gosh. I mean, I'm trying to think of something we updated from like first edition.
Kimmel Spice.
Kimmel Spice. Uh, so sapient orbs.
Oh, good. Here we go.
Sapient orbs in I'm not sure who originally wrote the original sapient orbs from Starfinder first edition. I should go look it up because they're so cool. But anyway, they're like purple orbs who are just like, they're cool, they're chill, they're friendly, and they like to make friends, and they float around and they've got some magic powers. And I was like, okay, so what about sapient green orbs? They're nemesis. So we added sapient green orbs as well, and they have this interesting relationship where they're like never seen to interact with each other, but they clearly, the sapient purple orbs are like, oh, we don't want to talk about them, and the green orbs are like, oh, we hate purple orbs. And then there's these little weird sapient gray orbs who are like super awkward and like make you uncomfortable and aren't known to ever do anything interesting or have any lore or advice or anything useful to say. They're just like there, and they're weird, and they're like in a little sidebar that I wrote for Alien Core. That's just like, ah, yes. And then the gray orbs, the weird ones. And so it's just like, I love making up the little weird stuff and just setting the stage for a GM to tell a story about these civilizations of these ancient magical orb orbs. I
Beings.
don't know, beings, right?
You're
That did clarify something because I was like, I was looking at them and it didn't click that purple and green are on the opposite sides of a color wheel. I'm
Fascinating.
I feel real silly. That was
That's really
basic.
funny.
I was like, why don't they like each other? It's easy. It's like, or why aren't they? Oh, I get it.
Hmm.
It's in the description of the monster.
I I love that the gray orbs are milquetoast and boring because that reminds me of the Futurama episode with like the neutral planet.
Uh-huh.
You never know where you stand with a sentient gray orb, Kif. Oh, that's so funny. And yeah, so if I see something weird, like extra weird in like a quirky way, that might just be the Kimmel Spice.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, weird stuff, or I mean, I like the spooky stuff too. Uh, a lot of stuff. I love though when something comes back unexpected. So one of my favorite creatures is they're called ship stealers. Their
Mm.
actual name is Alloyd, Alloid, and they are in Alien Core as part of the Dominion of the Black, right? And the sort of the deep, vast space aliens, cosmic horror entities. And the ship stealers are these. When I assigned this out to the freelancer, I said, we want these like creatures that stow away on a ship and attack the crew,
Mhm.
and they hunt in packs. That
Mhm.
was the assignment. And I was picturing like furry guys. I don't know. I was picturing like hulking furry things. And what we got, if you look at the art in Alien Core, is these like long, thin, putty creatures that
Uh-huh.
like seep through cracks and like stab you with knives and stuff. So it's
Way
like
creepier.
I really love when a freelancer hits me with something that's just like not expected, but in like a good creative way, right?
Mhm.
They should follow the assignment, and this freelancer absolutely did. It just was not what I was picturing. But I didn't tell them make a furry guy.
Yeah.
I just told them make this pack hunting stowaway on a ship thing. I got these putty creatures, which I find even more terrifying and cool than what I had sort of imagined. So I love when the spice is not just something I added, but something that I prompted someone to create, and then they come back with this awesome idea that ends up in the book. It's pretty cool.
That is extremely cool. So, you talked a bit about like helping, it's kind of like making monsters yourself, and then also overseeing the freelancers. Tell us what goes into making a new monster for Starfinder. What's your process?
Yeah. So for Starfinder, I mean, there's kind of two different kinds of creatures that we're creating for Starfinder's second edition. One of those is things that exist already, right?
Mm-hmm.
First edition things, and one of them is entirely new creatures. And
Mm-hmm.
so I guess kind of what goes into the process for one creature, you kind of have to look at the whole picture first, like we did for Alien Core. Like I said, spreadsheets, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and say, look, we're missing a low level thing that can creep on board a ship. We have a high level thing, or like a mid level Garagakal, for example, are our
Yeah.
weird things from the drift. We have Spectra, maybe, who are attacking you in the drift. We have a bunch of high level, maybe we have high level oozes or whatever that can attack you when you're traveling through space, but we need
Mhm.
something low level. All right, let's make it creepy because we need more horror things. So then we come up with the weird pack hunter thing. And so it's all about sort of filling niches, I guess. And so the process for Alien Core was really looking at what do we have? What do we want to bring forward in this book from like sort of the classic creatures, either because they're fan favorites or they're our favorites, like the case of the sapient orbs, for example, was
Mhm.
me just being like, I want the orbs, put in the orbs. Um, or because that someone in charge says we absolutely need to have um, dragons or something like that. And then once we have that list of the classic stuff we were bringing forward, then it's a question of what niches do we need to fill and where do we want to fill those with brand new things, and where do we have ideas for those things, right? Small team, let all of us brainstorm together multiple times. And then where do we want to give more flexibility to freelancers and just give them something, an assignment that's like, hey, we need a plant alien monster that's an invasive species and can kind of show up anywhere. Uh, and that's all we got. That's the idea. Oh, and it's level 4, you know,
Anywhere.
It,
and it's one page.
it seems like
So
a process that's
have fun.
different at scale than at individuals, where like people make one monster, you're
Yeah,
not looking at one, you're looking at a
yeah,
dozen.
yeah. So for and I do a lot of creature design for adventures as well, which is a lot more just like you said, this what is the one thing I need for this cave to have? And it's a creepy slime cave, and I've done a lot of slime stuff already, a lot of oozes, and I need a humanoid or whatever. And I'm gonna put something in. Um with the big book scale, like for Alien Core, you've got to think of what's the chart, right? What does my spreadsheet tell me that we need? Which is why I love the spreadsheets, is because it's and that sounds so impersonal, but to me, it's just part of seeing. Like I said, I was a teacher for a while. It's like seeing the whole curriculum and seeing which points you need to kind of expand on. Where are
Yeah,
the
yeah.
gaps?
This is a good time to remind everybody listening that No Direction Beyond is filmed in front of a live twitch.tv/No Direction audience. And that means there are people that are like commenting in real time as we are having this wonderful discussion with Mike. And every so often, we will take questions and we'll ask them to our guests when we have them, such as this question from Lava Being. How
Mm.
is enemies dropping loot considered when planning what is a non-adventure resource, like in Alien Core? Does your team try to balance enemies with equipment versus those without?
Oh, yeah. For sure. So the main enemies who tend to have equipment are NPCs, like someone with a stat block who needs more gear to explain their abilities. And
Mhm.
naturally, players can attack those people, and player characters can take their gear. Um, and we thankfully have robust guidelines from Pathfinder Second Edition, so the Starfinder team didn't have to come up with all this themselves. The design work, much of it was laid out for us already, but GM Core already has guidelines for what is appropriate levels of gear to hand out for creatures. One of the decisions we made about augmentations, which are installed into your body to augment like your arms or your brain or your eyes or whatever, is that those aren't loot. So we can give them to an NPC or a creature to explain, oh, this character has dark vision, but we're not giving away a valuable magic item that grants dark vision because it's an augmentation. And the player characters can't like loot that or whatever. So loot mostly ends up on NPCs. I personally, in adventures, like to make sure that an encounter with like a dragon or something like much higher level than the characters has like something really unique and special as a reward. Alien Core doesn't have a lot in the way of like specific gear. The way that the old Alien archives had sort of presented gear for players, but I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it was a really good answer. What do you think, James?
Yeah.
Very cool. So now, I guess going back to our previous line of thoughts with questions, what sort of considerations do you make regarding like the aliens that you write? Like, which part of the galaxy do they go to, or
Sure.
other information like what spells do you give this creature? Like, to walk us through your conceptual process.
Yeah.
I bring that one up because your boy man in chat wants to know appropriate spells to give a space dragon sorcerer if he's going to bring it over from Pathfinder, which that's a totally different topic.
Sorcerer suggestion for spells.
Mhm.
Oh, I need so many more details to answer that question. But so as far as your question about sort of deciding where aliens go in the galaxy, so that is a fascinating question because a lot of the time when writing an alien, it's tempting to describe where the alien is from and like the specific planet or environment that the alien is found in, which is great for an adventure if it's like, hey, you're on this desert planet and this desert planet alien is from here and it's found here and you encounter it. Hooray. But in something like Alien Core, if you say this alien is only on Castrovel, and you're basically saying, hey, GMs, you better be running an adventure on Castrovel, or you need to be creative and come up with a reason for this alien to be somewhere else, and we're not going to help you. So we're trying to, when we're deciding where aliens fit in the galaxy, the way that I approached it in Alien Core and the way a lot of the team is trying to approach this is more, I mentioned Galaxy Guide and the adventure themes that we're exploring, like high-tech adventures, war-torn adventures, dystopian adventures, space fantasy adventures is one of the categories, horror adventures, weird adventures, exploring the unknown adventures. And we're trying to think more in terms of which of those themes do these aliens or NPCs fit into, and what stories do they help tell, rather than locking them into a really specific region of the galaxy and saying, oh, they're only found in the vast or something like that. We're trying to give GMs a bit more flexibility in deciding, hey, I want to run a horror adventure, and there's all kinds of horror themed aliens who could show up all kinds of places. And then leave the more narrowly defined creatures to the adventure space.
So we're more likely to see like a ecosystem in like an adventure book or like a gazetteer for a planet rather than seeing like Alien Core going, this is found in the one region of Castrovel that nobody has touched. I can't remember what that region is called, but you know what I mean.
And there's some exceptions to that, especially with like unique creatures. Like we have a enormous unique ooze that came down from Castrovel's moon and is attacking the planet. And obviously that creature is only found on Castrovel because it's a unique creature. But one aspect of it is that it's a cosmic ooze. So theoretically, it could launch itself through space and fly wherever the GM wants it to go. And it's kind of got this mystery about why it's there and what it's doing. And so we try to leave open avenues, even with our unique creatures, for a GM to say, you know what, I'm going to take this and do something else with it.
Nice. Now, one interesting component of Starfinder compared to most science fantasy settings is like the prevalence of high magic. And I would say moving from Starfinder first edition to Starfinder second edition, there's definitely been kind of like a narrative focus on the fact that it's a high magic setting. We've seen more magic in second edition than we ever did in first edition. Like, I mean, for one, spellcasters go up to 10 levels now, which is awesome. What do you feel that narratively you can do with high magic in space that you couldn't do with something in Pathfinder? Your boy man asks specifically what you couldn't do with stuffy vellum bound spells. Like
Stuffy
what?
vellum bound spells.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is at the forefront of my mind because of projects I can't talk about, so I need to be
Uh-oh.
cagey.
Mm.
I appreciate a lot of the focus on some of the magic that lets you do things beyond fighting and the ways that magic connects societies and characters and people uh, across time and across space and the ways obviously fantasy magic can do those things, right?
Yeah.
You can communicate and travel and do all these non-combat things in Pathfinder as well. But I feel like as the chat comment says, stuffy vellum bound spells, you think more of the flashy fireballs and stuff like that when
Yeah.
you think of that kind of magic that exists in Starfinder. But I often think a lot more of um, there's a reason that our occult dragon in Alien Core and on the cover of Player Core is the Akashic Dragon, the one about the Akashic record and knowledge. And our divine dragon is the cosmic dragon, which is all about cosmic balance rather than being a flashy uh,
Like an
sun
infernal
god
dragon.
dragon or infernal dragon or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a cosmic balance dragon, and so um, that's where my mind goes a lot when I think about Starfinder magic is away from the flashiness because we already have grenades and
Mhm.
right like
Yeah.
we already have ways to do the big flashy gunfights and explosions and things like that. And yes, you can do that with magic as well, but I appreciate a lot of the cool new spells we have that do other things.
I'm laughing really hard while you're talking about this because your coworker Dustin Knight just popped into our chat and
That's trolling me.
referenced the meme of like the two nations on either side of a river going,
Yes.
their stuffy, smelly spell component pouches are superior UPB printed artificial bat guano.
Yes.
Oh man, that's funny. That's very funny. What do you all right, so we've talked before about like aspiring freelancers, how like it's not all glitz and glamour being a developer, but you have a lot of institutional knowledge about this next question. What would you
Sure.
think are the do's and don'ts of building a creature? Like give me 3 do's and 3 don'ts.
Oh, sure. So if you're doing it for me, let's say that you're writing one for me for a book, Alien Core or an adventure, the first thing to do is read the assignment, and then the
Read the
second thing to
assignment.
do is read the assignment. Then you should write your creature, and then the last thing you should do after you write your creature is read the assignment again because you probably screwed up. This is the teacher in me talking, of course, but no, write to spec is the main thing, and so that means like execute the assignment as it is requested, right? If I ask you to give me an invasive plant alien, don't make it an ooze. That's an invasive ooze alien that lives near plants or whatever. It's like, no, I asked for a plant because I need it to be a plant because we already have 14 oozes or whatever, right? I've got my spreadsheet and you messed it up. Um, unless your idea is super, super cool, which is the next thing, which is like always add your creative juice, right? Like, if I have hired you to write something, it's because for whatever reason, someone referred you to me, or I saw your previous work, or I've worked with you before. Like, I want your creative input. So play it safe, do the assignment as written, but like add your touch because that's why we're having people write our stories, right?
Yeah.
These days, we could ask a computer to write creatures for us and it would do a terrible job. And I would never do that. And Paizo doesn't do that, but there are those who do. And we want people writing our content because of that creative spark. So like, please do add that because you might make me change my spreadsheet around if your ooze invasive thing is so cool, right? That it's like, I could never have come up with that. We need this creature in here. We need to put in the ooze, not the plant thing. They're right. I was wrong. I'm going to change it. If I say no, we really do need it to be a plant thing, though. Then like
Tough luck.
that. Yeah. So like write to spec, but add your creative spark. And also, this isn't something like written into the contract that you have to do it collaboration with other people. But I mentioned Alien Core had a lot of authors, and most of our projects now, even an adventure, will have multiple people working on it often. And collaboration to me is like a huge key aspect of creative work, and it was a huge aspect of the way I taught. And so we ask often for our freelancers to collaborate with each other, whether that's running stuff by each other and giving feedback within the guidelines of their contract and NDAs and all of those things, with a limited scope. But please collaborate and collaborate with me, collaborate with other people. Don't just try to do everything by yourself, especially if you have areas you want to run by people and get feedback on. I know that was not really specific to creature design per se, and I've done many panels at cons about like the really nitty gritty aspects of creature design, and we could talk about that some more right now if you wanted to. But those are like my main pieces of advice if you're writing as a freelancer, and you've gotten an assignment from me for a creature or something else.
I think that was really good
Yeah.
feedback and information. What do you
Yeah.
think, James? Should we ask Mike to continue and tell us more about creature design? Do you
Well,
want to hear more?
well, I do have a question about when you play characters. How often do you get to play?
Oh, I'm usually the GM. Our team game that we're starting back up again is not run by me though, and so I'll get to play. So I play some. I usually GM, but I do play some.
Do you have like a like either a thing that people say you keep doing as a player, or like any
Yes.
ticks or trademarks?
Oh yes. I play characters with like serious tragic backstories. Every time it's like, oh, all my friends perished and it was my fault, right?
The woe is me backstories. Everybody's
Yeah,
dead.
the woe is me
Woe is
backstory.
me.
The very dramatic. I like to play characters who, like, I've talked to the GM ahead of time and they're going to have an arc of like learning to make friends or whatever. Like, I don't play the character who's like evil and becomes good. I like to play the good characters, but they are usually like somehow tragic or standoffish or overly dramatic, and then over time
Okay, kind of like the Sundari arc.
change. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming really up close to time. We've got about 7 minutes left. So, how about let's take that previous question about the do's and don'ts of building a creature and let's condense it a little bit because then I want to give James a question because after that we have the free ball. It can be anything out of the predefined list that I sent you of maybe anything. Let's go ahead and say, like, what would you say the number one, like, if you are a GM and you're sitting at home and you're sitting down to make a creature, what's the number one thing you should do?
Narrow the scope.
Narrow the scope. So like focus
Yes.
in on that thing that your adventure actually
Yep.
needs. Are we talking about like
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so if we're talking about like narrative, are we talking about like mechanical, both, neither?
Both. Yeah. So
Both.
imagine if you're sitting down, GM, you're creating a creature, picture the battle. This is what I do anyway, is I see the scene in my mind, right? I see the fight and I see the cool thing the creature does. Make it do that. don't make it do 7 things because you're not going to have time for it to do 7 things, right? Especially in the way Pathfinder, Starfinder, second edition battles play out, or even first edition. They're pretty fast in terms of the number of rounds. There's just not going to be very many. So give it a very cool thing that it can do and a couple things to facilitate that. Like if it needs to fly, that's fine, but you don't need an ability that it can do while it's flying and the cool AoE thing that it does and 7 different spell effects and 3 different weapons that it uses. And right, you don't need all of this stuff. Give it options, but as far as like the cool ability it can do, give it like 1 or 2 things. See a lot of creature designs that have way too much going on. And there's certain creatures that need that, right? Your lich or your dragons or whatever that are supposed to be much bigger, more dramatic encounters. But as far as your like everyday encounters, narrow the scope and make it do the one cool thing in a really cool way.
See, this is how you know that Mike is a professional, because he simultaneously answered both half of the do's and the don'ts at the same time with one response. Efficiency. Love it. Done. All right, so here we're at. For the next one, James, your free ball question. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't read the interview. I'm sorry, or the outline.
Oh no!
Oh,
okay. I totally forgot. I got messed because we had that Zoom issue where it wasn't doing stuff. So it took my time that I assigned for that.
All right, and then I'm up again. Let's go. The next question on ours was obviously with we had a bit of like with like the Diamond Publishing stuff. The Starfinder has had a bit of a rocky start, but we're rolling. The ball is moving, and we're looking forward to bigger and better and brighter things from Starfinder. But can you tell us something about the future? Is there anything that we have to be really excited for? Something that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, so we've got Tech Core coming. I did do a fair bit of work on that, as did everybody on the team. That's very exciting. I can't say much about tactical starship combat, but
That's
I
fair.
can say that I think it's a lot of fun. Man, I can say that there are at least 2 or 3 big adventures I'm working on. And if you want to know more about them, go read Galaxy Guide. I'm telling you, that book, it came out before Player Core even was released. It's our setting book, right? Our kind of, hey, this is the setting as of the launch of Starfinder second edition. And if we put stuff in there, it's because we think it's cool and we want to tell stories about those things. And so if you're looking for like, what adventures are they going to do? I'm not saying that every single one specifically has like a seed in Galaxy Guide, but like when we're looking for inspiration and you're thinking, what is the stuff? What are the stories that inspire the Starfinder team right now? You put them in the book because that's where we put the stuff that we want to lay the groundwork for. So it's like kind of a tongue-in-cheek answer, I suppose, but just like
actually like things that could be in that book coming in the future. That's the real Kimmel Conspiracy. Is there actually a Kimmel Conspiracy?
like,
Whoa! Gosh,
yes,
what is it?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I see one more question in chat. I don't know if this is a question you're going to be able to answer, because this doesn't seem like it's in your adventure wheelhouse, but the question wants to know about is there a reason the nanosite is an archetype instead of a class in Tech Core? Because I don't know. Is that something that's been revealed? I haven't paid attention.
I don't know if it's been discussed or revealed, so I'm not gonna be able to say more about that one.
So you're telling me that I should get a developer on the show when Tech Core comes out?
Yeah. Get folks on the show when Tech Core is out, I suppose, and ask again. I believe that there was another interview with Jenny and our new designer Aras Yazgan, who spoke a bit about. I don't know if they directly addressed Nanosite. I can't recall in the moment. It was revealed.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the decisions were analyzed.
I mean, I think the nanosite is really cool, but like my thing about the nanosite is that its whole class was kind of like a piece of really advanced gear in the nanite array. So like I don't know. For me, my take is that I think archetype makes sense. Like if you're gonna have your whole thing be a piece of gear, why can't I just install that into a witch warper? And that's what this archetype sounds like it does. So
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, I think
I
more
love
of like
installing stuff into the Witch Warper.
Right.
Just make it more cool.
I feel
James,
like
go
a
ahead.
nanosite can be anything, right? Because
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot as a class, but yeah, it could be anything, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, we're at time. We've been going for an hour. So let's turn it over to you. Is there anything that you want to talk about that you're interested in? Anything that you want to say? Any shout outs, accolades, anything like that?
Private projects, anything.
Oh,
Private projects.
shout outs, accolades, private projects. Oh gosh. I do want to shout out my team.
Oh,
uh, uh, who, it certainly has been, let's see, 2 years and a bit since I joined, and it has been a roller coaster. Launching a new game is a lot of work. It's very exhausting, very grueling. It's funny to be talking about stuff like tech core, or the timeline of us working on a project versus it being announced versus it being released is like a lot of stuff happened ages ago as far as me working on it, and I'm working on stuff for like way down the line. And
yeah.
so um it's just like there's so much that goes into the brains of the people on this team that they need to do and keep track of and stay sane and uh you know produce all of this content, which is a lot of content for a team of its size. And they never fail to surprise me with their collaboration and compassion for each other and looking out for each other and the tremendous creativity that they bring. And I
That's
appreciate all of them.
that's beautiful, and that's something that we definitely need in the modern day right now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mike. It was a pleasure to have you. Hopefully, it won't be another 14 years before you're on the show again for us to see you.
Well, you'll
we
just have to invite me back again sometime.
listen, don't threaten me with a good time, Mike Kimmel. In the meantime, if you want to threaten yourself with a good time, you can go to nodirectionpodcast.com where you can find the handy dandy Discord link to join our Discord. James and I are in there all the time. It's been a little bit slow these last couple weeks, but for me that's okay. I'm starting a new job, so it's all right.
Hey,
But
congrats.
hey, thank you. Yeah, I'm working with the school district now instead of doing a private practice, and it's very nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so in the meantime, if you want to pop into our Discord, hang out with me, James, Ryan, Lauren, the whole gang, we're all there. Happy to have you. Or you could just hop in and watch our shows. We're the last Monday of every month is when we typically run our shows. We did have to cancel last month. I apologize. My dog passed away, so I needed some space. Yeah, but ultimately we're ready to be back and we're ready to barrel forward into the new year. James and I are still looking at what kind of topics we want to do for February, since it's kind of in this like lull period where there's nothing coming out that month, but like there are stuff coming out soon, so there's not a whole lot to do. So if you have a topic that you'd love to see us cover, hop into the Discord and let us know. Or if there's someone you'd like for us to try to interview. I know you have a bunch of new faces on the Starfinder team that I don't think we've ever had a proper interview with, and I would love to grab. Or also like Jenny is now creative director for Starfinder. Is that her
Creative
title now?
manager. Yeah,
Creative manager.
Yeah.
Creative manager. Yeah. And so like we haven't had her on since she became in that role. And so like she took that role. So like there's a whole bunch of people that we would love to do interviews for, because James and I were talking before we had you on. Like we had gone almost a year and a half, I think, without really having any interviews because you guys have been so nose to the grindstone with
Yeah.
5 books plus Murder in Metal City. But yeah, we are very excited to have you guys. Thank you so much for coming. And until next time, everybody, go beyond with no direction.